My name is Elliot Hayes, and if you told me 3 years ago that I'd end up as the Academy Director's arm candy in a web of lies spun tighter than a fisherman's knot, I'd have laughed in your face. Hawthorne Academy wasn't your typical Ivy League feeder school. It was a sprawling Gothic relic perched on the rugged cliffs of coastal Maine, where trust fund kids and scholarship strivers alike came to hone their edges into something sharp enough for the cutthroat world beyond. Fog rolled in off the Atlantic like a living thing most mornings, wrapping the ivy-choked stone buildings in a shroud that made secrets feel inevitable. I'd arrived fresh out of community college in Portland, 20 years old and green as the Academy's manicured lawns, with a partial scholarship in creative writing and a chip on my shoulder, the size of the state I left behind. My mom had died the year before. Cancer, quick and merciless, and Dad was too buried in his long-haul trucking routes to notice I'd stopped eating right. Hawthorne was my escape hatch, a place where I could rewrite my story without the ghosts of foreclosed farms haunting every page. Xavier Blackwood was the ghost I didn't see coming. He was 36 then, with the kind of quiet authority that made boardrooms and backrooms bend to his will. Tall, broad-shouldered, with hair that had started silvering at the temples like frost on a winter pine. He looked like he'd stepped out of a John Grisham novel, part mentor, part enigma. As director, he oversaw everything from curriculum tweaks to donor schmoozing, but rumors swirled about him like the coastal mist. A widower, they said, though no one had seen photos of the wife. A disciplinarian with a soft spot for underdogs. And whispers, always whispers, about why a man like him, Harvard pedigree and all, had washed up in this fog-bound outpost. I met him during orientation week, in the grand hall where chandeliers dripped light like melting wax. I was late. Nerves had me pacing the dorms, and burst in mid-speech, my backpack slung low, dripping seawater from the sprint across campus. Heads turned, including his, our eyes locked, and for a beat that stretched too long, the room felt like it held its breath. "Mr. Hayes," he said, voice smooth as aged bourbon. "Fashionably damp, I see. Care to share why punctuality feels optional on your first day?" Laughter rippled through the crowd, light and forgiving, but I felt the heat crawl up my neck. "Lost in the fog, sir. Won't happen again." He nodded, a ghost of a smile tugging his lips, and that was it until it wasn't. The pretense started small, innocuous. A month in, I was drowning in a lit seminar led by Professor Lang, a hawkish woman who grated like she was avenging personal slights. I'd bombed a paper on Faulkner, and the fallout had me skipping meals again, staring at the ceiling in my single room until dawn bled through the curtains. Xavier found me there, or rather, I stumbled into him during a late-night wander to the library's 24-hour annex. He was nursing a coffee in the alcove, papers spread like a battlefield. "Hayes, burning the midnight oil." I mumbled something about deadlines, and before I knew it, he was dissecting my outline. Not tearing it down, but building it up, line by line, with insights that made the words sing. We talked for hours about Steinbeck's ghosts and the ache in Hemingway's silences, and when the clock struck 3, he said, "You've got fire, kid. Don't let this place snuff it." That kid stuck in my craw, but the rest? It warmed something I'd thought gone cold. He became my unofficial advisor. Office hours that bled into walks along the cliff paths, where the sea crashed like applause for our debates. I didn't question why the director was investing in a nobody like me. Flattery, maybe, or pity. Turns out it was leverage. The ask came over cider at the faculty lounge during homecoming weekend. Hawthorne's traditions were sacrosanct. Bonfires, alumni toasts, the whole Americana pageant. Xavier's eyes were shadowed. His tie loosened like a noose half-slipped. "Elliot," he said, low enough that the crackle of the fire swallowed it. "I need a favor, a big one." I leaned in, the warmth of the drink buzzing in my veins. "Shoot." He glanced around. Trustees milling, students laughing, and leaned closer. The boards breathing down my neck. They want me settled, visible. Family man. After everything, they think I'm a risk. Unstable. His jaw tightened, and I pieced it together. The widower rumors, the isolation. But there was more unspoken, in the way his gaze flickered to mine, holding too steady. Pretend to be my boyfriend, just for the events. Dates in public. Keep it light, nothing real. 3 years, tops, until I lock in tenure and they back off. I nearly choked on my cider. Boyfriend? Me? I'd known I was gay since high school. Buried it under flannel and farm boy stoicism. But this? It was absurd. Dangerous. Why me? I managed, heart thudding. You're discreet. Smart. And, he paused, that smile again. Faint but real. We click. No one will question it. I should have said no. Walked out into the night and let the fog swallow me whole. But there was his vulnerability, cracked open like a lobster shell, and my own desperation, for connection, for purpose. Okay, I heard myself say, but ground rules. No strings. Ends clean. He clasped my hand under the table, firm and brief. Deal. From there, it snowballed. Our first date was the alumni gala. Me in a borrowed suit that hung loose on my frame. Him in bespoke charcoal, arm around my waist as flashbulbs popped. Whispers turned to nods of approval. Blackwood's got a keeper. And I played the part. Shy smiles, lingering glances. The brush of fingers that sent sparks I ignored. Behind closed doors, it was scripts and safe words. Good job tonight, he'd say, clapping my shoulder like a coach. You're a natural. But Hawthorne's walls had ears. Students noticed. Jealous glares from the lacrosse captain who'd eyed me in the showers. Giggles from the lit mag girls. I leaned into it, let it shield me from my own loneliness. Xavier's world cracked open. Private dinners at his cliffside cottage, where the sea whispered conspiracies through salt-stung windows. We'd talk books until the fire died. His laugh rare but resonant, like thunder rolling distant. I told him about Mom's last days, the way she'd hum Dylan while chemo dripped. He shared fragments of his marriage. A love that fizzled into indifference. Her accident on a slick Boston road 2 years back. No wonder the board hovered. Grief made him a ghost in his own life. By spring, the lines blurred. A donor brunch where he introduced me as my Elliot, possessive and warm, and I felt it coil in my gut. Not revulsion, but want. Stupid, reckless want. I pushed it down, reminded myself of the contract. 3 years, then fade to black. But late nights grading papers in his office, our knees brushing under the desk, or the time he patched a cut on my hand from a shattered mug, his touch lingering. Those were the fissures where truth seeped in. Summer break hit like a reprieve. I went home to Dad's empty trailer, but texts from Xavier kept the tether taut. Miss the fog? Read that Atwood you lent me, brutal. I replied in kind, photos of lobster rolls and cracked asphalt, him sending shots of his solitary hikes. When fall rolled back, so did we, stronger somehow. Arm in arm at the harvest dance, swaying to Springsteen under strung lights, his breath warm on my neck. This isn't so bad, is it? He murmured. No, I admitted, pulse racing. Not bad at all. We were fools, dancing on the edge of the cliff, pretending the fall wouldn't come. Junior year dawned crisp and unforgiving, the kind of Maine autumn where the leaves burned crimson before they surrendered to frost. Hawthorne thrummed with midterms and mischief, but our charade had calcified into routine, weekend getaways to Portland's waterfront bistros, where we'd pose for candid shots the PR team devoured, then retreat to neutral corners. Me to dorm pranks, him to board meetings that left him hollow-eyed. I told myself it was fine, that the ache in my chest was just growing pains. But lies have a way of metastasizing, and ours was no exception. The first rail crack appeared during the winter formal, Hawthorne's answer to prom. Black ties and borrowed corsages in the echoing Great Hall. I'd scrimped for a slim-fit tux, nerves jangling as I waited by the punch bowl. Xavier arrived late, windswept from a donor call, his eyes scanning until they landed on me. You clean up nice, Hayes, he said, voice pitched low, hands settling at the small of my back. The touch was electric, proprietary, and for a heartbeat, I leaned into it. We danced, slow, scripted, the orchestra's strings weaving illusions. His palm was warm against mine, calloused from weekend woodworking in his garage, and I caught his scent. Cedar and sea salt, grounding me even as my head spun. Elliot, he breathed, close enough that his stubble grazed my temple. Have I told you lately how grateful I am? The words hung, heavy with subtext. I swallowed, forcing a grin. Buy me a drink after, and we're square. But after came the unraveling. We'd slipped away to the cloistered garden, breath fogging the air, when his phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Miss you tonight. When do we stop hiding? He paled, pocketing it like poison. Work? He muttered. But I'd seen the flush of guilt, the way his gaze skittered from mine. Who was it? I pressed, the cider turning sour in my gut. No one. Drop it.
Sharp, un Xavier.
He paced the flagstones, rake of fingers through his hair. It's complicated. The word landed like a stone in still water. It's pretend. I reminded him, voice steadier than I felt. Remember? No strings. He stopped, eyes stormy. Is that what you want? Pretend. I froze. The garden spun. Bare branches clawing the stars, distant laughter mocking us. What did I want? Him raw and real, without the board's leashes or Hawthorne's prying eyes. But admitting it meant torching the bridge we'd built. What I want doesn't matter, I said finally. This ends in a year. Clean. He reached for me then, thumb brushing my jaw, a touch that seared. Elliot. But his phone buzzed again, and the moment shattered. He pulled back, cursing under his breath, and we returned to the dance like ghosts. That text haunted me. I didn't snoop, not at first. But curiosity is a thief, and by spring, I'd cracked his office laptop during a study session, password guessing with birthdays and pet names from our talks. The emails were a gut punch. A thread with J. Harlan, an adjunct history prof from last semester. All coded longing and stolen afternoons in Boston hotels. Can't wait to feel your hands again. One read. This time, no pretending. Betrayal hit like a rogue wave, cold and total. Xavier, my Xavier, with his quiet wisdom and rare grins, had been playing a double game. Our charade wasn't just cover. It was camouflage for something deeper, dirtier. I confronted him that night in his cottage, rain lashing the windows like accusations. James Harlan. I spat, screen grab printed and crumpled in my fist. How long, Xavier? While you had me smiling for the cameras. He deflated, sinking into the leather armchair by the hearth. The firelight carved shadows across his face, aging him a decade. 6 months. It started after orientation last fall. He saw me, really saw me without the masks. His voice cracked. Elliot, you have to understand. This wasn't about you. It was survival. Survival. I laughed, bitter as bile. You used me, paraded me like a shield while you. I was scared. He surged up, eyes wild. After Sarah, the accident, the board, they dissected me, questioned every choice. Harlan was a lifeline, something real in the dark. But you. He stepped closer, voice dropping to a plea. With you, it's different. It's home. The words twisted the knife. Home. That's what I'd felt too. In the curve of his shoulder during movie nights, the way he'd hum off-key to my guitar strums. But trust? That was ash now. We're done, I whispered. The pretense ends now. No more dates, no more anything. He nodded, broken. If that's what you need. I fled into the storm, the sea roaring approval, but sleep evaded me for weeks. Classes blurred, words on pages swimming like minnows. Friends noticed. My roommate, Theo, a theater kid with a sixth sense for drama, cornered me in the quad.
Spill, Hayes.
You look like you swallowed a lemon whole. I deflected, but the dam broke over cheap beer at the campus pub. Theo listened, wide-eyed, then hugged me fierce. Fake or not, that man's got you twisted. Question is, do you want out for real, or just the lie? I didn't have an answer. Xavier respected the boundary, no texts, no accidental run-ins. But Hawthorne was small, and proximity is a tormentor. I'd catch glimpses. Him in the dining hall, laugh lines deeper. Advising a freshman club, his voice steady but eyes distant. Each sighting chipped at my resolve. stirring the embers I'd tried to douse. Summer fractured us further. I interned at a Portland lit agency, burying myself in manuscripts, but Xavier's shadow lingered in every coffee shop haunt. A postcard arrived mid-July, a black and white of Acadia cliffs. No signature, just the fog lifts, but the view changes. My chest ached. Was it apology? Invitation? I burned it, but the smoke clung. Fall senior year brought reinvention. I threw myself into the Academy's literary journal, editing pieces that bled vulnerability, stories of lost loves and reclaimed selves. Theo dragged me to mixers, where cute baristas flirted and I flirted back, testing waters I'd long avoided. One night, with a poli-sci major named Riley, lips brushing in a dorm party haze, I pulled away. His touch was fine, pleasant even, but it wasn't cedar and salt. It wasn't home. Xavier, meanwhile, cleaned house. Harlan vanished from faculty rosters. Personal reasons. The board praised his stability. Oblivious. But I saw the toll. His suits hung looser, his smiles rarer. During a guest lecture on narrative arcs, our eyes met across the auditorium, and the air thickened. After, he lingered by the podium. Elliot, your edits on the journal brilliant. Raw. Thanks, I said, guarded. Learning to cut the bullshit. He winced. Fair. We didn't speak of the kiss that never happened, the almost that haunted. But tension coiled, a spring wound tight. Midterms loomed, and with them, the annual winter symposium, Hawthorne's crown jewel, where donors and dignitaries converged. Our final couple's appearance, by unspoken agreement. I dreaded it, the performance atop fresh wounds. The night before, a nor'easter howled, uprooting oaks and flooding paths. I holed up in the library, thunder rumbling like unrest. Footsteps echoed, Xavier, drenched, coat slung over his arm. Powers flickering in the cottages. Thought you'd be here. Always am. I closed my book, wary. He hesitated. Then, can we talk? Off script. Against better judgment, I nodded. We ended up in the rare books room, a vault of leather spines and lamplight glow. He poured scotch from a hidden flask, contraband for the director, and we sat cross-legged on the Persian rug, knees inches apart. I'm sorry, he started, voice gravel. For Harlan, for the lies layered on lies. I never meant to hurt you. But you did. The words escaped, sharp. I know. He met my gaze, unflinching. Truth? From the start, it was you. The way you challenge me, see through the polish. Pretending with you. It stopped being pretend months ago. My breath hitched. Then why him? Fear. I'm good at facades, Elliot. Bad at breaking them. He set the glass down, hand trembling. But I'm trying. For you. The air crackled, charged as the storm outside. I wanted to bolt, to rage, but his honesty pinned me. What now? I whispered. He leaned in, slow, giving me space to shatter it. Now, we rewrite the ending. If you'll let me. Our lips met. Not a crash, but a question. Soft, tentative, tasting of scotch and salt spray. It was everything and nothing like I'd imagined. Tender, terrifying, true. When we broke, foreheads pressed, he murmured, no more games. But games have players, and Hawthorne's board was about to deal a wild card. Winter symposium weekend arrived like a verdict. The campus transformed into a glittering stage. Twinkling evergreens lining the drive, chamber music drifting from the hall like smoke signals. Donors jetted in from Manhattan and D.C., their laughter brittle as thin ice, while students buzzed like stagehands prepping the act. For me and Xavier, it was opening night and potentially closing, depending on how the curtain fell. We'd tiptoed into something fragile since that library kiss. Stolen moments in shadowed alcoves, hands brushing during casual walks, texts that veered from academic to intimate. Read Kerouac tonight. Reminded me of you, wild and unmoored. I'd reply with Dylan lyrics, veiled confessions. It felt like courtship, the real kind, laced with Hawthorne's gothic romance. Frost-laced windows framing our silhouettes, the sea's distant roar underscoring whispered promises. After graduation, he'd say, tracing my knuckles in the dim of his office. We go public. No more hiding. I believed him or wanted to. The betrayal scar throbbed, but his remorse was a bomb. Flowers left anonymously on my desk. Wild coastal roses, thorns intact. Notes tucked into returned essays. Your voice matters. Don't silence it. He was wooing me earnestly, and damn if it didn't chip away at the walls. But the board loomed like storm clouds. Led by Evelyn Thorpe, a steel-haired venture capitalist with a nose for weakness. They adored our couple narrative proof of Xavier's steadiness post-tragedy. Such a picture. She'd coo at events, patting my arm like a prized pet. I played along, arm linked with Xavier's, but her eyes lingered too shrewdly, as if scenting rot beneath the polish. Symposium Eve, the gala unfolded in opulent excess. Crystal flutes bubbling, string quartets bowing pachelbel under vaulted ceilings. I stood with Xavier by the hearth, his hand light on my elbow, as Thorpe cornered us. Elliot, darling, you've been quiet tonight. Everything all right in paradise? Xavier tensed, his smile a blade. Just savoring the moment, Evelyn. She sipped her champagne, eyes narrowing. Moment's end, dear. Speaking of, I've heard murmurs about your extracurriculars last spring. Her gaze flicked to me, probing. Harlan's departure was abrupt. Messy, some say. The air thinned.
Xavier's grip tictanat, nucleus vitaning.
James left for personal growth. As I recall, you approved the severance. Oh, I did. She smiled cat-like. But optics matter. And with tenure review looming. She trailed off, implication dangling like a guillotine. I excused myself, pulse hammering, fleeing to the veranda where snow swirled in balletic fury. The cold bit deep, but not as deep as the dread coiling in my gut. Blackmail? Leverage? Thorpe wasn't bluffing. She'd got Xavier to install her puppet director. He found me minutes later, coat draped over my shoulders, his scent enveloping. She's fishing. Ignore it. Easy for you. I turned, snowflakes melting on my lashes. This could end you. Us. Not if we hold the line. He cupped my face, thumbs sweeping chill from my cheeks. Trust me, Elliot. I've got contingencies. I wanted to, God, I did, but trust was a fragile thing and Thorpe's hook was barbed. The gala dragged on, toasts clinking like chains, until Thorpe pulled Xavier aside for private counsel. I watched from afar, nursing a ginger ale, as their heads bent close. His posture stiffened. Hers radiated triumph. When he returned, his face was a mask, eyes shuttered. What? I demanded, once we escaped to his cottage, the storm raging outside like our unspoken fears. She's demanding I propose, publicly, at the closing brunch tomorrow, to solidify the stable image. He paced the rug, firelight dancing shadows across his torment. Refuse and she leaks the Harlan emails to the press. Career over. Hawthorne tainted.
Propose.
The word hollowed me. After everything, the kisses, the confessions. It reduced us to props in her power play. So what? We fake an engagement too. His laugh was hollow.
No. Hell no.
I'm telling her to shove it. Tenure be damned. And then, my voice cracked. She buries you. Us. He stopped, pulling me close, heartbeat sinking with mine through wool and worry. Then we fight. Together. I've got recordings, her own indiscretions, favors called in. But Elliot. His breath hitched. If it goes south, I need you to walk. Graduate, go to New York or wherever your lit dreams take you. Don't anchor to my wreckage. The selflessness gutted me. I'm not leaving you to drown alone. You might have to. He kissed me then, fierce and farewell-flavored, hands framing my face as if memorizing. I love you, he whispered against my lips, the first time uttered. It shattered something vital, left me raw and reeling. I love you too, I choked out, the admission a lifeline in the gale. Dawn broke gray and unrelenting, the brunch a battlefield disguised as brunch. Linen-draped tables groaning with quiche and mimosas, donors droning about endowments. Xavier and I sat front and center, His knee pressed to mine under the table. A silent vow. Thorpe held court nearby, her smile a serpent's. The closing address fell to him. Podium poised, notes crisp. He began standard, gratitude, futures forged, but midway, his voice shifted, steel beneath silk. Hawthorne thrives on truth, he said, eyes sweeping the room, lingering on Thorpe. Not facades, not manipulations. We've hidden too long behind what suits the narrative. Murmurs rippled. Thorpe's fork clattered. What we've built here, community, yes, but also courage. To love openly. To stand unapologetic. He turned to me then, fully, the room fading to periphery. Elliot Hayes has taught me that, not as a role but as reality. And I won't pretend anymore. Gasps echoed. My heart seized public, raw now. Thorpe surged up, face ashen. Xavier, this is inappropriate. No. He cut in, calm as a blade. What's inappropriate is coercion. Evelyn, your threats end today. He nodded to a side door. Campus security emerged, laptops in hand. IT logs, email trails, her web of influence exposed. Chaos erupted. Shouts, chairs scraping, donors dialing lawyers. Xavier stepped down, hand extended to me. I took it, rising amid the maelstrom, our fingers laced like defiance. Run, he murmured, half-smile breaking through. Never. We bolted for the cliffs as sirens wailed distant. Backup called, no doubt. The path was treacherous, mud-slick and wind-whipped, but adrenaline carried us. At the overlook, sea churning below like wrath incarnate. We collapsed against a boulder, laughing breathless through the shock. You did it, I panted, forehead to his. You burned it all. For us. His eyes shone, fierce, worth every ash. But victory's afterglow was fleeting. By evening, Thorpe's allies circled. Interim director appointed. Xavier suspended pending investigation. Protests flared. Students chanting his name. Alumni penning op-eds. But the machine ground slow. We holed up in his cottage, barricaded against calls and knocks, stealing hours in each other's arms. Quiet talks by candlelight, plans sketched on napkins. New York for me, consulting gigs for him, a life unscripted. Yet doubt gnawed. What if they win? I asked one night, tangled in sheets, his heartbeat my anchor. Then we rebuild. He kissed my temple. Elsewhere. Together. It sounded like faith. It was. Spring unfurled tentative at Hawthorne. Crocuses pushing through snowmelt like stubborn hope. But the academy simmered with schism. Petitions circulated. Stand with Blackwood trending on student feeds. While Thorpe's faction stonewalled, painting Xavier as reckless, a liability in pinstripes. Faculty fractured. Some rallied with quiet coffees and legal tips. Others ghosted, eyes averted in halls. I navigated it all, a ghost in my own skin. Finals looming, thesis advisor dodging my emails, whispers trailing me like smoke. That's the boyfriend, the one who started it. Xavier held steady, a rock eroding but unyielding. Mornings, he'd brew coffee strong as resolve. Evenings we'd walk the cliffs, hands brushing until solitude allowed more. Remember our first hike? He'd say, voice soft against the waves. You quoted Whitman. I am large, I contain multitudes. That's us now. No more containing. I clung to that, to him. Graduation crept closer, a guillotine's shadow. Cap and gown, diplomas inked. But what then? My lit agency internship had morphed into a junior editor offer. Glittering, precarious, in Manhattan's maw. Xavier's prospects dimmed. Consulting whispers from old Harvard ties, but Hawthorne's stain lingered. Go, he'd urge, tracing maps on my palm. Chase the dream. I'll follow when the dust settles. But leaving felt like amputation. Our love, forged in fog and fracture, demanded roots, not flight. The climax crashed mid-May during commencement weekend. The ceremony was a powder keg. Families and bleachers, board members stiff-backed on stage, Xavier barred from the dais. I walked the aisle numb, diploma heavy as lead, Theo whooping from the crowd. Post-ceremony, as grads posed for photos amid azalea blooms, a courier thrust an envelope into my hand, sealed with Thorpe's monogram. Meet me, observatory, 8 p.m., alone, where he loses everything. My blood iced. The observatory. A Victorian turret atop the hill, telescopes pointed at indifferent stars, where Xavier and I'd once mapped constellations, his arm around me in the chill. A trap, reeking of finality. I went, twilight bleeding purple, the air thick with salt and secrets. Thorpe waited by the railing, silhouette sharp against the dying light. Elliot, punctual as ever. Cut the games. What do you want? She turned, smile vitreous. Simple. End it. Walk away from Blackwood. Publicly. Testify he coerced you, the relationship a ploy for favoritism. In return, he gets a quiet exit. Reference, severance. You? Full ride to Columbia, my treat. The offer dangled poisoned fruit. Columbia, dream grad school, lit program's crown. Security for dad. A future untainted. All for a lie that would crucify Xavier. Why? I demanded, voice raw. You hate him that much? Not hate. Control. She stepped closer, eyes gleaming. Men like him, charismatic, uncollared, upend boards. I built this place from your quaint scholarships and silver spoon brats. He threatens that. And me? Just collateral. Her laugh tinkled, cold. You're young, ambitious. You'll pivot. Lovers come and go. Legacies endure. I thought of Xavier then. Not the director, but the man. Humming Dylan in the shower, bandaging my scrapes with gentle curses, whispering I love you like a prayer. Betrayal's echo from Harlan paled. This was apocalypse. No, I said steady. We're done pretending. She sighed. Theatrical. Pity. The evidence is ironclad. Your emails, the dates. Walk, or it all burns. As she turned to leave, thunder rumbled, literal, the nor'easter's kin brewing offshore. I followed the path down, heart pounding, to Xavier's cottage. He was packing, books stacked, photos tucked, resigned to exile. Elliot? What happened? I told him, words tumbling like rain. His face cycled. Fury, fear, fierce pride. You said no. To Columbia? For us. I crossed the room, pulling him close. Always. He held me, trembling. My brave fool. Now what? The storm broke then, full fury. Wind howling, waves battering cliffs like war drums. We stood at the window, arms entwined, watching the tempest rage. Sirens wailed, flood warnings, evacuations, but we stayed. Rooted. By midnight, the call came. Thorpe's car, en route to the airport, hydroplaned on flooded roads. Skid, spin, crash into the guardrail. She survived, broken ribs, bruised empire, but the scandal metastasized. Leaked recordings, anonymous, courtesy of a rogue trustee, exposed her graft. Donors defected, board imploded. Xavier was reinstated by week's end, not as victor, but survivor. Terms renegotiated, freedoms carved. Summer bloomed from the wreckage. We left Hawthorne tandem. Me to New York, him trailing weeks later with a loft in Brooklyn and a book deal on authentic leadership in turbulent times. No fanfare, just us, unpacking boxes amid skyline views, his hand in mine as we christen the space with takeout Thai and tentative dreams. It's been months now. The fog lifted but memories missed lingering. We argue over edits, his manuscript, my queries. Laugh at bad puns. Make love slow and sure under city lights. Betrayal's scar fades, a faint line on healed skin. The pretense? A prologue to this truth. Humanistic, they call it. Flawed souls forging grace from grit. In America, where reinvention is sacrament, we did just that. Xavier kisses my temple mornings, murmuring, no regrets. None. I reply, meaning it. The cliff called once. We answered together. And in the echo we found home.